right, good morning, everyone. My name is Ken. That's not important, except if you're getting credit. Just to let you know that you need to be, if you are in need of CPDU credit, I need to scan you right now. And after the presentation is over, this thing is on a 15-minute clock, and I am not in control of it. So 15 minutes after the presentation is over, you need to get scanned on your way out. So I will be, I'll be somewhere. Just look for the hat. So, all right. I'll just make it quick because you want to hear them play, not me talk. But this is one of the most amazing groups I've ever seen. I've gotten to listen to them a lot. They're just wonderful. They have swag. I don't know if it's for sale today. Yeah, thanks.
Wow.
They have wonderful swag. If they didn't bring it, I'll be happy to sell it to you for $100 in cash. But yeah, new vintage strings. I'll let them do their things. So, all right, take it away, guys.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. We are New Vintage Strings. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. My name is Jeremy Byer. I'm from Dundee-Crown High School. And I have to say, you guys are much more attentive than our regular audiences.
We're not used to this. We're not used to that. Anyone know the name of that tune? Anyone know that one that we just played?
We usually do a little trivia. We quiz.
Yeah. Yes.
Peace Frog by the Doors?
Yes, sir. That's 10 points.
Yeah,
10
a
points.
little bit of a deep cut there.
Okay.
And I'm Emily Byer. I teach in Yorkville.
I'm Christy Klein. I teach in Glen Ellen.
Allison Zablin. I teach in Libertyville.
And my name is Mara Brown. I teach at Elk Grove High School.
And what we hope, what you can get out of this today, we never claim to be total experts on work, performance, life balance, but we try, and we feel that we're proud of what we've put together here over the past few years. Hopefully you'll be motivated to reconnect with your instrument, discover outlets for performance for yourself in whatever way that looks, and then you'll be inspired to bring that connection into the classroom. So about NVS, New Vintage Strings, well, you could say maybe it all started when Jeremy and I met in college. We met at NIU.
In the elevator at Northern Illinois University.
In the music building. Yeah, bass player, violinist. And now we're married. And these three actually happen to know each other at U of I, right?
Yeah, we all met studying music ed at University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. Go Lions. I.
So we just recently realized that we're kind of like a Brady Bunch of NIU and U of I.
Yeah. In a way we are. And then we started playing in Fox Valley Orchestra together, got to know each other, and we had been gigging in different formations, weddings usually, wedding gigs here and there.
Yeah, you know, you always get those calls about, hey, we need somebody for a wedding, can you get a group together? So we found ourselves getting a group together. Why don't we just have a group, and then it's always together.
Yeah, and it kind of started, we played something for North Aurora. I think, Allison, you may have found this gig. And they asked us what our name was.
Right.
They said, what's the name of your quartet?
And that sort of makes things real. If you
Yeah.
name your group, you kind of take on an identity and go on
Yeah,
from there.
so then there you go, and that all happened in 2018. Once we got going with performing at that North Aurora gig, we performed at more and more community events. We started doing that, and then once we really realized we enjoyed playing together, we do, we started reaching out to more venues, to restaurants, to breweries, of course weddings as well. And now here we are, the end of, now it's 2023, but in 2022, we ended up performing 40 public performances, 16 weddings, 35 different venues, we realized last year. I think this was our busiest year.
Yeah, and 23 of those 35 venues were new venues for us. And that's something that I sort of get a thrill out of, trying out a new place, a new crowd, a new demographic, a new city. So we have been kind of branching out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also expanded the NVS family, and as it started with like 4 of us, now you see there are 5 of us up here. And
I used to call Christy our 5th Beatle because she would hop in, sub for Allison, sub for Mara.
So we have like 2 violists regularly. They both also play violin too, so we can always like mix and match, which is really great. But not everyone can play every gig, and we get some great subs as well. And some of you in here have even played with us. If any of you have played with this group, go ahead and stand up. Does anyone
We
play
see
with this
ya.
group?
Hey, Ken.
Oh,
Hey,
podcast.
Preston. Hey, Preston. Hey, Ken.
And Preston. Yeah.
And if you want to be part of this crew, we're going to put up our contact information. Seriously, it's great. And I'm probably skipping ahead, but I just want to say, work-life balance, I have a baby at home, I can't always do all the gigs, and it's so nice to, not feel the pressure. I'm not letting anybody down if I can't do it. It's nice to have, a variety of people available, and that helps with that balance.
Yeah. Oh, and if we've played your wedding, go ahead and stand up.
Yeah, I don't know, 16 weddings.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming. So yeah, we've expanded the family. Yeah, 16 different members within NVS in the last year.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means to play as you are a teaching professional, because if you're like me, I graduated from college and I pretty much was like, okay, cool, that's how good I am at violin. If I get to play it again, that's awesome, but I'm definitely going to be teaching and doing that kind of thing and, making my adult life. And it wasn't until I was asked when we had to get subs for rehearsals at the Fox Valley Orchestra that I realized that I had something that A, could give something to a group, and B, that I wanted to continue to nurture. So I actually took my whole first year of teaching, I didn't even really play at all, and it was my second year of teaching when I joined the Fox Valley Orchestra, and then one thing kind of led to another. I think that like the experience I've had might resonate with some people just because I think we all, at least at one point, really enjoyed playing our instrument or at least making music. Or maybe there's something we want to get into that we haven't yet. And it's really not ever too late. Like I pretty much gave up the violin for a year to become a teacher, a first-year teacher. And now I'm back at it, and I would say I play more now than I ever did in college. So if you're just kind of like iffy about getting back into playing, it means something to your heart and your soul and like what you do for your students. I just have to give a big plug for it because it makes up that other side of what I do as an adult and as a professional, and it really fills me up personally in a way that I don't think I could do any other way. Do you guys want to talk about improvisation and things like that?
Yeah, I can hop in on that one. So, any bassists or guitarists among us? Yes. I mean, it's hard not to get excited about a rack of instruments in front of you, right? Like, I just want to pick something up.
These
and
are
play.
actually his instruments.
Yeah, that's my arsenal.
Not a stock photo.
So, my journey to bass was a little bit circuitous. Starting on cello and sort of teaching myself guitar. And then in high school, the thing to do was to play in a death metal band. So that was my, the cutting of my teeth, so to speak. So I've always been into alternative styles, rock and roll, heavy metal, jazz, getting into upright bass that way. So I think there's just something so freeing about spending time with your instrument without any agenda, without anything to have to practice. Yes, it's great to be a part of an ensemble. It's great to build your chops learning solo repertoire, but just to spend time connecting with your instrument and just exploring your instrument. And there are lots of ways to do that. I'm by no means an expert in it, but just free improvisation, playing along with backing tracks, jazz people among us, there's more than I do. Using a loop pedal is something really fun that you can do on any instrument, as long as you have access to with a pickup or a microphone of some sort. You can plug into a loop pedal and play along to your own backing track.
Or get a bunch of extra instruments like he has. A lot of instruments. So if you,
want to talk about lessons?
in your own reflection, as you're listening to this, you might be thinking about how connected you are at the moment with your instrument, and if you feel comfortable talking with the person next to you, or you just want to reflect in your own head, but think about when is the last time you practiced your instrument, and if you could, would you play music more? Just reflect and think where you're at right now with it. Yeah.
Picking up the instruments.
Do you practice? Are you any good at your instrument? Have you ever practiced? Have you ever practiced?
Oh yeah, okay, got it.
You're not very good. No one should feel shame here.
Yeah.
We did practice. Anybody use Kagan strategies? Let's refocus, please. Anybody else use that at their school? No? Okay, it means be quiet now. Let's refocus.
So some of us up here were reflecting, well, I guess a lot of our gigs are kind of like our practice sessions.
Depending on the gig.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we like to keep in mind is that we love playing our instruments. We do consider ourselves musicians and professionals, but we also we have a limit. We don't want to take anything we do on our instruments so seriously that it's making us anxious or upset or anything like that. And so, one of the things, these guys probably don't even know this, but my training is all being a music reader. Give me an orchestra piece, I'll learn it for you, I'll play it on your concert, great. I'm almost afraid of doing things that aren't printed for me and in front of me that I read down. And one of the things that is just really, really low key that we have to do is do sound checks on our gigs, and we end up just kind of flowing. playing whatever we want. You know, Jeremy tells us to play a little bit, or, you know, different instruments or different combinations. And it's interesting how something even like that, where I'm just kind of like, you know, defaulting to G major, of course, right? And then like, you know, playing up and down the instrument and exploring sounds without an agenda is like a very beautiful thing that is just happening because I have to sound check, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I also want to talk a little bit about lessons. If it's something you're interested in and if you find the right fit for you, who's willing to teach you as an adult without like a future performance career ahead of you. It's something I explored actually with a goal in mind, an audition in mind, but really when I think back on it, the audition was sort of the least important part of that process because what it did is it just allowed me to stop as an adult in my 30s and really just like think about what it was in my violin playing that I felt like could use a little bit of improvement and finding the right resource to do that. And so I feel like this is kind of weird, but I feel like I've gotten a little bit stronger at the violin, technically, from these lessons in my 30s, and that is not anywhere I expected to be when I graduated from college. Like I told you guys a few minutes ago, it was like, okay, we're done. You know, this is how good I am at violin. So,
And just
yeah, go ahead.
Just to toot Mara's horn, I said we all met studying music ed, but Mara actually has 2 degrees in performance too. So she finished 2 degrees in performance, and now she's saying she's better in her 30s. Like, that's pretty cool. Nice job, Mara.
There is no ceiling. There is no ceiling. We're always growing. We're always getting better. How many of you have been, or in the recent past, have been taking private lessons? How many of you would like to maybe get back into that? Yeah, me too, myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, would love that.
Okay, so I don't know if you've noticed, but I am a little social. I love meeting new people. I love building relationships. I love hanging out with the friends I already have. And like that social desire like passes along to my students and their families. I love at concerts, like meeting parents and hanging out with them and stuff. So it's really cool to be able to invite your students and their families to performances so that they can see that side of you too, and just like be inspired to, you know, oh, like when I finish high school, like that doesn't have to be the end of my music career. Like I could, as an adult, also play in an orchestra. Like, oh, these people in this orchestra aren't all professional musicians? Oh, interesting. Like, it's just, you know, maybe not in the forefront of their brain at that moment, but just to expose them. They might never see a professional ensemble otherwise, or semi-professional, or, you know, amateur, or whatever we're gonna call ourselves. But, you know, so we all played in that Fox Valley Orchestra. We've had students come see us in the orchestra, see us in the quartet. Yeah, it's really, especially like, we made one of our best friends like from this orchestra, and we were like having a conversation like, how often do you meet someone outside of work or college or before, and then like form this new beautiful friendship? So it's a nice opportunity when you join a community ensemble or make a group.
Yeah, I'm a Chicago transplant. I grew up in St. Louis, went to college in Ohio, so I mean, I don't know, you know, where my network would be from a social and like personal standpoint without the music that we played together. It's huge. It's huge for me.
To toot Allison's horn just a little bit, I also play in a rock band up in the Libertyville area, and our drummer has a daughter who has gone through Allison's program, or is still in.
Just finished it.
Just finished. And he tells me, you know, at concerts, Allison is like a celebrity, and everyone is just so excited to come up and talk with her, and she is genuinely caring about their children's well-being, and just building that connection, and you know, and inviting families out to see us perform, and giving them the opportunity to see that, you know, music is not something that you just do in school.
Yeah.
You can take that home. You can continue that for the rest of your lives.
And you actually like it.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there anyone in here that currently plays in either like a local or community band, orchestra, choir, or professional?
Hey.
That's fantastic.
We use a lot of string language up here, but yeah, community bands or professional wind ensembles or brass bands,
Yeah.
choirs. I mean, I'm sure there are so many opportunities for everyone.
How do you start an ensemble?
Well, I think first step is instrumentation. And one of the ways we've found success at venues like breweries and wineries, restaurants and bars, we're not the average singer-songwriter type of group. You know, we're not just one person with a guitar and a microphone. Or we're not a crazy loud rock band where people can't communicate with each other while attending the performance. So we've got a lot of good feedback about our instrumentation. Oh, that's so cool to see violins and cellos. That's not a cello, but okay. Yeah. And you know, people come out and like, oh, my son plays viola, and it's amazing to see a viola being played in public. You know? And we're not having to drop hundreds of dollars on symphony tickets, you know, things like that. So think about the instrument you play, or maybe the instrument that you're thinking of getting into. You know, like maybe you dabble on guitar or you dabble on clarinet. Anyone have any fun ideas for a unique combination that you would like to see performing in public? Is there a group that I'd love to see, you know, a harp and a cello duet playing at my, you know, local watering hole? Can you think of anything? Talk to your neighbor for just a second. If you have your own group, or if you think, hey, this would be a cool combination, I'd love to hear what that combination of instruments would sound like. Take 10 seconds.
Picture of me when I was and Mary had the eye. It'd be kind of fun to have a picture like us with
Anybody want to share what their neighbor said? Anybody? You want to share? Madison.
She said that there was a steel pan and harp.
Oh, I would go see that. Yeah, I would make time to go see that. So cool.
Over here.
3 cellos and a flute.
Yeah. Ooh, sort of like the Apocalyptica vibe, but with like flute carrying the vocal.
I
Yeah.
want to jump into and say, like, I don't come from a very musical family. Like, I'm the first person to ever be like, I want to play musical instruments. My parents were like, what? Like, I don't know anything about this. And they came to all of my concerts, even like when I was in Fox Valley, and they came to all my classical stuff. That's not really like, you know, their idea of sitting and listening to music. And by far, like, I have more family members asking when we have gigs and when to come see it. Like, they really, truly enjoy coming to see this type of ensemble. And they support that too, which is really nice.
Christy's good at bringing the crowd,
Oh, yeah.
and that's why venues that we play at keep asking us back. All right, so once you've got an instrumentation in mind, it's fun to just, you know, get together on a Friday night or Saturday or, you know, whenever you have a minute. I know it's hard to make those minutes, but just to get together and make it an unstructured reading session or jam session, no matter what your combination of instruments or voices or humans, whatever you're putting together, just get together, have fun, make it an event.
Yeah, and even initially, before we became New Vintage Strings, I had always just wanted a string quartet of my very own. And I was actually picturing that we would play classic rep. And just you read through the classics, and that they'd come over on a Friday night. We actually did it once or twice.
That did happen once or twice.
It
We
did
had a
happen
great
once
time.
or twice, and it was really fun.
And I was just the bartender, you know, I didn't have to play. It's like, leave the cello to the professional.
Yes, yeah, because it was, traditional string quartet style, because I just had this yearning for this type of connection with a small group, playing independently more on your instrument with the group, and then this became. Yeah.
You can see our band manager there, Cora,
Yeah.
is one of our cats. And it's just, fun to get together with friends and
we
make
actually
music.
did start with Jeremy on cello when we would first play quartet gigs, especially at weddings, because that's what the music, it was easier to find.
Yeah, in our
quartet
early
music.
days, our repertoire was mainly Mozart, Haydn, Bach, and I tried to hack it on cello, and eventually, let me just play the cello part on the bass. I think we're better off
and then
that
we started
way.
doing that, and then we added in some more jazz music and realized we can throw down a nice bass line with that, and then the rock music, and naturally the bass really fit.
Since we're into like tooting each other's horns and stuff, I think something that makes us so special, like I said, like we swap out instrumentation and stuff, and we were just having a conversation, like, The buyers are a wonderful package deal. They're usually in like, it's a little date night or whatever. Like they're almost always at all the gigs. Jeremy is pretty much literally at every gig.
Because I'm also the sound guy.
You're also the sound
it's
guy.
Job
and
security.
I just think having the bass, and specifically Jeremy, although other bass players, we'd love to have you sometime too if Jeremy's not available, but just that jazzy vibe a bass can add, and especially Jeremy, we sound way cooler than we could have possibly sounded. No offense, like cello. Well, there's some cool cellos out there.
Jazz cello is cool too.
Yeah.
Cello is really cool.
But,
if you were here early, we opened, our little prelude selection was It Had to Be You. So maybe you heard us playing a little jazz.
Sorry, that was merely supposed to be a compliment for Jeremy. Didn't mean to insult anybody else. Sorry.
Cellists are great. We
Love
have had
cellists.
cellists join us too, and for
Yeah.
a quintet style too.
Right, I mean, if the client has the budget for it, sure, we'll play as a quintet. And then we have all the string orchestra repertoire at our disposal as well. Because a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm improvising instead of truly playing the cello part. I'm doing my own thing with it. And going back to instrumentation really quick, I forgot that we've recently grown to be a quintet, including guitar. So one of my childhood best friends, whom I grew up playing in bands with, we've mellowed out in our older years, and now he's playing acoustic, doing some fingerstyle stuff underneath, Dust in the Wind and Stairway to Heaven and all those great tunes. So it's cool to just change things up and not stick to the traditional rep. So as you're building your own sheet music collection, I'm sure you all know as music educators, there are so many great resources or great sites out there for purchasing music, great apps. Personally, I kind of default to Sheet Music Plus just because of the selection.
They have good sales too.
Yeah, and they're always sending me coupons, so it's like, oh. It's like the Kohl's cashback trick. I'm hooked. 35% off and a $5 coupon for next time. If you go on our website, you can see that our repertoire list is insanely long. Happy Sheet Music is another one, Unique Sheet Music, and of course there are the bigger suppliers like Quinlan and Fabish and J.W. Pepper that you use for your school libraries. So besides coming up with a name for your group, I think it's beneficial to sort of shape your style or your vision through either a motto or a slogan or a credo of some sort. Also, developing an image through a brand. We were lucky enough to find a maker on Etsy who actually specializes in house numbers. And I saw the product, I'm like, hey, that's really cool. Instead of an address, could you put just letters? And that's been our logo ever since. Also having talented friends in the realm of photography. Shout out to David Genty if he's watching, and so many other skilled photographers who have come to see us and take great photos of us that we can use on social media and our website and everything.
The business cards are over to
cards.
If you'd like to grab one.
Oh, that's what she was
Stand here.
We've spent a lot of money on Vistaprint, but yeah, business cards, postcards.
Yeah.
We need to get into stickers. I've heard that stickers would be better. We need to get into
Yeah,
stickers.
stickers. And merch now. We have
Merch,
hats,
yeah.
Merchandise.
as Ken is proudly displaying. And we're going to get into t-shirts next. Yes.
The amount of people who show up to our gigs too are like, oh, I saw on social media you were playing here tonight. People start following you and you gain a crowd. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention with all of that branding stuff and motto and slogan, that develops over time. Even our name was one chosen from a list of about 16. That
Yeah, I think we
came
each
up with.
threw like 10,
Yeah, we're like, oh,
12
okay.
names into a
So,
hat.
yeah, so it's not like you have to figure these things out right away or even immediately when you have a group. The beautiful thing about our group, it's existed for now almost 5 years, and it's like it just keeps evolving, and so we keep evolving, and it's really fun, to be honest.
All right, so once you've got your gang together, the process of finding gigs can be challenging at first. We mentioned earlier how we started with township events in the Aurora area, And then once you build that, you establish that connection with the people who are planning those community events, and and they ask you back, and they have friends who have friends, and it just becomes a word of mouth sort of snowball effect. So holidays, of course, are a great time to get out there and perform. Of course, that's our busiest season as musicians. Farmers markets in the summer, or even farm stands into the fall. One of our first gigs was for a public library, right?
Yeah,
West
Chicago.
West Chicago.
Concert series at your local libraries.
And I was talking with a friend about gigging. I have a few other friends too. A different friend. Okay, I'm gonna get to the point of the story. And that was that your gigs should be one of three things. Well-paying, very meaningful, great exposure. Ideally like a combination of those things, but like we do take some gigs that like aren't as great paying, but we think that it's gonna lead to a lot more gigs. And the nice thing about playing with your friends, my mom always says, like, most people when they hang out with their friends, they spend money, but like, you're not making a lot, but like, you're not spending any money. Instead, you're making a little bit of money, getting some free beers, like hanging out with your friends. Like, so even if it's not great paying, if you're having a good time with your buddies, it's not so bad.
You got to find that the time is well worth it.
Right.
I think we do.
Yes.
And I think having a meaningful performance experience, it could be performing Mahler, or it could be just having fun with your friends while you're improvising or playing any style of music you like. So yeah, that hit me, the meaningful, because we don't make a ton of money at a lot of our restaurant and bar gigs. We do it for the exposure. Those performances lead to wedding gigs, and that's where we're able to gouge people a little bit. Sorry.
It's not gouging when you think of what we're really, the value we're providing. Yeah.
But again, having the experience of performing, those casual gigs while people are sitting in a beer garden, I think makes you a lot more relaxed as a performer. And it allows you to have a little bit more fun and engage with people a little bit more than, sitting on stage in a concert hall.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to list some of our top places we played at? I can
Oh,
do that.
right, yes. Emily's looking at the speaker notes.
Yeah, I have the notes. We've played a lot at Plank Road Tap Room in Elgin, Art History Brewing in Geneva, Riverlands Brewing in St. Charles, Sohops Brewery in Huntley, and La Zingara, and it's an Italian restaurant in Arlington Heights. This is a few of our regulars. There's some
One of our
favorites.
favorite coffee shops is Cafe and Bar in Geneva. And building the relationship with the owner there, and just becoming friends with these proprietors, I think is a fun part of
we
the
feel
gig.
more a part of the community, and we just recently moved to St. Charles, and now we're thrilled to be a part of that area. As you heard, we play a lot in Geneva and St. Charles now, but we feel part of the community when we get to know the business owners as well.
Another 10-second chat break. Think about venues in your town or in your area. What are some places that have live music on weekends or Thursday nights or
And
whatever?
can you get them to reach out to us?
Take a business card.
Thoughts? Roger's Bar. I always, when I'm trying to Google how far I am, always put Roger's Bar.
One day when I do that.
Is there anything else to see? Custom shop. Do you know that? And you're going to do it?
Yeah.
If you have not yet experienced teacher burnout, I'm extremely envious of you, or just burnout in general. I think personally that music teachers we're a breed of people who just want to, we teach, but we also have this aspect of playing because we grew up doing it, and that's why we got into the profession, and we don't want to give that up. And then you have, all the extra events that we do. We have solo ensemble, we have concerts, we have field trips, we have all the other things that we do. Those are the top things that come to mind. And it just takes up so much of our time. I've been teaching for 13 years now, and over that time, I've realized that I'm just not my best self. I'm not my best teacher when I experience that burnout. And being that best teacher, being my best self, therefore makes me a better friend, a better wife, a better family member, and I think that mental health is something that is really important to me during this. So when we're talking about adding something else to our plate, like doing these gigs, it really is important to take that time and be like, okay, is this worth it? What am I gaining from it? What are the cons of doing this? And I'll give you an example. Like, Jeremy is the organizer, as we have said, and we'll all get a Google Calendar invite from him. And the first thing I do is like, I look through it and I'm like, okay, what does my week look like? What does my month look like? What does my weekend look like there? And I kind of sit on it and I say, I've worked on this a lot too. I've in my head, I say like, should I say yes to this? And after I've gotten through that, I also think about the joy that it brings me to play with these people and to play at other events and to actually be a musician instead of a teacher for a moment. And I kind of balance that, and I do probably say yes more than no because it does bring me so much joy, but there are also those moments where you're like, okay, should I say no because it's just such a crazy weekend and we, aren't playing for a ton of money, and I know that they can get a sub. Again, that's a great point too. Like if I know that someone else can take my part, yeah, okay, maybe I'll pass on this just for my personal health, and I'll be there next time, and I'll be my best self when I'm there next time. I think that's a super huge consideration when you're doing something like this, and just having those limitations, knowing that like, especially when you're first starting out, maybe just like, okay, let's try for 1 gig a month, and that's it, and kind of start there, and keep going from that. Kind of figure out your balance. Another great thing about being a teacher is that you have summers off. So you can do a lot of amazing gigs during the summers and winter break and all that. And then maybe during the school year, during those busier times, you can kind of back off a little bit. So there's a nice balance that you can create, but it takes time to create that balance. But I do think that this aspect does, when I go and play, the amount of joy that I come home to, like I've already, Allison's mentioned she has a baby, I have a baby on the way, and I've already told my husband, like, I really want to fit this in when we have a baby, and he's been so supportive of it too, and just knowing that we're going to try. He's a gigging musician as well, so finding a schedule is going to be probably an adjustment for us, but when we know that it's something that personally brings us joy and makes us better people in our life and in our students' life, I think it's something that you should value.
Yeah, very well said. And to tag on to that, Jeremy and I have a lot of discussions about this at
Discussions,
home.
yeah.
Discussions. Yeah, they're always really nice.
They're simple.
And he's definitely more of a yes person when it comes to gigs. I think your initial reaction, we realize we have a different personality when it comes to this. He gets excited, gets pumped up. Yeah, this is a great opportunity, and that's great too. He will look at, I would say, just if the day is free, we're free that day, we should say yes.
Or like even sometimes if that third of the day is free. We had one weekend in July where we had 5 gigs.
Yeah.
One weekend.
Yeah, we did have one weekend with 5 gigs. Luckily it was in the
Yeah, it was a
summer.
doubleheader Saturday.
Yeah.
And
Thought we'd
a
try
doubleheader
it.
Sunday too, I think. Yeah, and one on a Friday.
Yeah. And then like Chrissy was saying, then I go the other route and we go through this together and I talk about, okay, well let's look at our whole week though. Oh, I have a school concert the night before. I have a field trip the day after. Maybe I don't want to like get myself so busy with a gig in
Orchestra
between all of them.
rehearsal the night after, like
Or
okay,
an
let's
orchestra rehearsal.
step back. Right.
Yeah. So then we've found ways to communicate at home about that too, and that it's okay to say no, and learning to say no to that wedding wire request that comes through, those emails from clients, and that it will be all right. And what we do if we do say no, you have a nice email that you send where you recommend other groups too, so we don't feel like we're just leaving them in the dust, that we're being helpful as a music community, and we recommend other performing ensembles.
Yeah,
if we
we're
can
definitely
get-
not looking to have
Yeah.
a monopoly on string quartet or chamber music gigs
Yeah.
in the northern suburbs. So if you do have an ensemble, please reach out to us and let me know, and we'll be happy to refer you when we can't play.
Yeah, that would be great. Anything else on this? Well, yeah, we talked about creating your schedule and your terms. Also, the price tag part of it too. Like, what are you, like, is it
Worth
going to
the
be
stress.
worth your time? Yeah, like, and sometimes, like we said, we might have gigs that don't pay as well, and then I think of things, well, okay, I'm getting paid $75, let's say, for this gig. Would I pay $75 to have a free evening? I kind of think of it that way when I'm trying to figure out the balance.
I think as teachers, we're also like very much yes people. So like I personally, like whenever I hear something, I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
But just taking that moment to just kind of think it through could be really meaningful.
And as artists, we're all about giving of ourselves. But I think someone said earlier, it's hard to pour from that empty cup. So you got to take time for yourself. I'll learn that someday. I'll work on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's a work in progress.
And I think we keep each other in check, as like you mentioned before too. And like I know we've had conversations about like, should we really do this? Maybe we pass. Like I think the group effort really helps too.
And when you get that vibe going, like it's not personal.
Yeah.
Like I'm not taking this gig on this day because I'm busy.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, we get it. Yeah, we're good.
Or I'm not taking that gig because it's in Chicago.
Right.
We don't say no to all Chicago gigs. Feel free to reach out.
So, coming back to our students, although we hope that you're leaving this session mostly thinking about how to feed yourself, but coming back to our students, I think that this type of activity, playing in a quartet or an orchestra or whatever makes you happy, it fills your teaching. It doesn't just make it better, I think it helps you connect to a part of yourself that you would like to share with your students. Sometimes when we're stuck in the scheduling and the calendars and the concert setups and all of that, you sort of forget the joy of why we do it in the first place. Because teachers are definitely professional problem solvers and fire putter outers. Reconnecting to this side of you, I know that when we have a good gig weekend or I have a good orchestra concert weekend, I come back to my orchestra classes. And I can't even really describe it or tell you what it is that's happening, but I know that I feel like a sense of being reinvigorated and I have different ideas. I bet we've all been in a position where we sort of don't like our own teaching sometimes because he's just used the same trick over and over again. And I would say I even had that experience this past Monday. We had an orchestra concert over the weekend and I got back to my kids in chamber and all of a sudden I had a couple of new ideas that I don't even remember how I got them, but I know they sort of showed up through that musical process of being a performer myself. Obviously, you can probably guess that the repertoire, especially in a group like ours that stays in the soundtracks, pop, rock realm, that's gonna feed your students. And the more open you are, when we first started, metal violin, that was not a thing that I knew much about, it's expanding all of our ranges as players. It's pushing us a little bit, and it's also personally for me, for my students, it's helping me not say no to things that I would previously be very afraid of. We did Thinking About You by Frank Ocean with my freshman orchestra this year. I don't think 2 years ago or 3 years ago version of me would have done that. And I think it's really cool to kind of push yourself and make yourself kind of step outside just a little bit and see if you like it. If you don't, that's cool. Go somewhere else. But even things like amplification, I used to be really afraid of that personally. I used to not want to amplify my classical violin. And now, there's just a lot of possibilities that open up if you're just willing to kind of give it a shot.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Exactly,
Always,
yeah.
And I think the kids get excited to hear that you play at places too, They're like, oh, you still play? Oh, you go out and play with your friends? That's so cool,
Right. And we talked about orchestra stuff,
Yeah.
and we talked about quartet stuff, and bowings, and all of that.
Yeah.
You get paid money to play your instrument.
Yeah.
Pretty
And inviting them out to your gigs too. That's incredible. That's really good. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, just building that community feeling, whether it's in your school building or in your hometown, just feeling connected. So whether it's getting to know the owners and the regulars at one of your local establishments, or performing at a venue that's within your district boundaries and being able to invite those families to see you perform, I think it just really strengthens the bond between the teacher and the student, and it gives those students something to aspire to, even if they're not going to go on and major in music. Anybody who can play can book a gig. You don't need advanced degrees to get out there and perform.
So I started like telling my coworkers too. It's been a nice bonding thing for my coworkers to come to. I'll be like, hey, I'm playing at Plank Road Friday night, or I'm going to be at Art History this night, and they'll get a group together and do a social outing as a school, and they enjoy coming to see me and supporting us, and it also bonds everybody, and then we talk about it at school, and the kids hear about it too, so it kind of just brings everybody together. It's really nice.
And not only sharing repertoire, bringing that back to your classroom, but also the venues themselves. We have discovered, a couple of coffee shops here and there where, we play an afternoon set and then we follow up and we book a student ensemble to go and play there, the following month. Or the other way around, we sent our students to play at this coffee shop,
Check it out.
and now, hey, let's go play there too. So it's nice to share those experiences and just kind of build that way.
So at this time, are there any questions that you have, comments?
There's so much that we forgot to put into the slides. So please, if you have any questions about what we've been doing, what's been working or not working for us, or just anything in general, please let us know.
In terms of like equipment, is that something you bring, like amps and all fours and stuff?
Yes.
For most venues, yes. And that's a point that I wish I put up there and just slipped our minds. So as we were starting out, we were using mics and mic stands and trying to do like the studio recording environment in a loud room and dealing with feedback and all of that. So we've sort of pared things down to different versions of pickups or clip-on microphones, and sometimes we bring a big powered speaker, but a lot of times we're getting by with just a little guitar amp. I like the Fishman Loudbox Mini. It can fill just about any size bar or restaurant, and it's easy to carry. So we do use a mixer, so we'll all plug into a mixer, and then I'll send that mixer signal out to the guitar amp. And I know sound technicians out there, if you have any sort of degrees, that's not the way to do it, but it's worked for us. And usually I'm not too stressed setting up, but we try to get there early.
Yeah. As the bass guy, when we are doing our sound checks, we try to pick tunes that are in the key of D or the key of G, and he can pit open strings with his left hand while he's adjusting our levels. We often do it that way, and that's why sometimes we start with the same tune every game.
So I didn't mention, I bring my own bass amp because I know better than to overload a guitar amp with my bass signal. So I use a PJB, Phil Jones, a little tiny lunchbox size bass amp. And again, that's tiny little drivers, but good enough sound to fill the room. So little tiny bass amp, little guitar amp, or a powered PA speaker, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We got a couple. How about over here?
So what would you say to anyone feeling that like I'm not good enough mentality to start actually going out, gigging, playing with other people?
I've got a point. And I think this is morphed, my view on this has morphed over time, because if you knew like 10 years ago me, I'd be more in like I'm a perfectionist kind of person. I strongly believe, and this group has made me believe even more, that when people are together making music, being joyful and creating community, it does not matter what the quality or level of the music is. We do not claim to be professional rock musicians. We just have a good time, and I think people vibe with that, and when we make a mistake, you can see me and Allison laugh, and like that's already happened this morning,
People still come up to us and they're like, wow, you sound so good. Like,
yeah.
regardless of how many
it's sort
mistakes
of like
you make.
instant validation too, because people are like freaking out. You're playing the trooper on violin.
Yeah.
And so I mean, if you're thinking you're not good enough, the answer is like you're not. I mean, you are. And also, the flip of that, the answer is you're not.
We're not good enough.
You're not good enough. Yeah, just go for it. Go for it, because nobody's a full expert in any genre.
Right.
And if you don't like it, you just don't have to keep doing it.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
you can just move on and move to
Yeah.
the next thing that's interesting.
And when you're playing out at these types of venues, just out in the public, just know like most people don't do what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Most people don't. They don't understand how it works. They just see you doing things and they go, "Wow, you're making sound and
Right.
you're playing a tune I
yeah.
recognize."
Right.
I had one of my division heads,
yeah.
not for music but for social studies, come to one of our gigs. We played just like a standard arrangement of Man Who Sold the World, and he was like, "That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen." And I was
He
like,
did say
"Thank you."
that.
And he posted on Twitter about it,
Oh,
you know.
wow.
And so, I mean, that happens all the time. And again, we don't think we are the most amazing thing that's ever happened.
And
but-
we all
yeah.
experience performance anxiety.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's perfectly normal. We were pretty nervous to play for you all today.
Yeah, because we know you do know what we're doing.
Usually there's maybe one or two musicians in the
Yeah.
audience at our gigs, but to play for all of you is, a little
Yeah.
scary. We're all good enough. And I mean, there's no such thing as perfection, and all we can do is strive and grow.
I know there's another question in the back. I just want to make sure.
Wait,
Oh,
let's-
yeah. But the other
Sorry,
thing with
sorry.
that too that I think helped me out is that just starting it with the mentality of I'm going to get some friends together, come over to my house, let's just read through some music. It really helps get your idea of like what kind of level of music, what type of style you're really into. So I think just starting in a more comfortable environment really helps.
But being able to fill set length is another obstacle, if you will. So I'm sure you're all great, but do you have the repertoire to fill 2.5 or 3 hours? So that's where you've got to start small and build from there.
Yeah, because I think our first performance is probably an hour set. And then the more and more gigs we got, and we realized we can do 3 hours at some point. Yeah.
And we continue like change our arrangements, right? Like, oh, this has a fade out, like those kinds of things.
Yeah. We had another question in the back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you find that your venues or your people hiring you try to dictate a lot to either the size of your ensemble or how much they want to pay you based on those kinds of things?
Occasionally, as a quartet, some people have been leery to hire us. Like, oh, we don't think you'll fit in our space. It's going to be too loud. But I always give them the option, hey, we can play unplugged. I can bring the little electric upright bass instead of the big guy. And we're also flexible enough with our instrumentation to perform as a trio or a duo occasionally. As far as them dictating our performance selections, yes, especially with weddings. We're artists and we're here to serve and we're here to meet our clients' needs. So if people want a certain style, we'll play it and we'll have fun playing it, even if it's not our thing. Personally, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but I had a lot of fun playing Taylor Swift at a wedding not too long
Some
ago.
good arrangements. Yeah. Or if we just can't quite get all the arrangements they're asking for, because sometimes a bride might have a list of like 20 things. I love all of these songs. You have them. And we may not be able to get to all of them, but if we look at the style and the genre of music they're looking into, they seem to appreciate that we put together what we did with our own set list on that, and it works out great.
Did that answer your question? I feel like I might have taken it in a different direction. Anything else to add?
Any others?
We could do one more tune for you
Want to hear
guys.
another tune?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Dave.
No, you did.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to remind all of you who got to stand if you need CPD credit, you have to stand out to get credit. And my strict instructions is that if you forget and you miss it, IDA you can't plead your case. So I'll tell you about it. So, all right, so make sure you get stand with me. I'll be at the front.
Okay, which is where all of our great stuff is. We just ask no take from these beautiful postcards and throw it away, God forbid, please. Put it on your fridge.
That is a scenic tree.
quiet question that was just asked. Oh, I didn't mean to tell who asked it. Someone was like, what's with the pedal? So we're all reading from iPads, and the pedals are Bluetooth pedals, which, game changer. Windy gigs, we don't have music flying, we're reading from the iPads, and then with the foot pedals, you don't have to turn the iPad.
We used to bring bags full of binders to gigs, so this has been, life-changing. This is Iron Maiden's The Trooper. Thank you all so much. We'll see you around this weekend. Thank you.